I'm Bambi Francisco with this segment of Lessons for Entrepreneurs, and I'm speaking to David Koretz. He's the founder and CEO of Blue Tie. David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
This is your fourth venture. I believe you told me that you started your first one when you were 14 years old, so you have a lot of experience as an entrepreneur. Give us three pieces of advice that you would share to the entrepreneurial community.
The most important one is the one I learned from our chairman, who, when we were starting our first company together, Tom Golisano is one of the Forbes billionaires. He's the founder and chairman of Paychex, a $2 billion payroll company. And the best piece of advice was he sat me down and he said, David, just remember, you don't have to be successful every time. You only have to be successful your last time. And so a lot of startups, don't appreciate the level of risk they're really in, and being able to understand that you can always continue going on and be successful the last time, I think, is valuable. Second thing is, I think it's extremely important watching startups. A lot of startups forget to refine their message before they bring it out to the market. And you hear a lot of pitches, and even at conferences where you have supposedly sophisticated companies, you hear very obfuscated pitches in terms of the clarity around their business model. And so I think it makes sense to first spend time internally actually practicing that and actually refining your pitch before you actually bring it out to the community. And then the third thing is really centered around what we've seen, which is, from an innovation perspective, I think it's extremely important that you take the time to not only validate ideas, but take some risk and insert additional ideas in the business. So we started out as a software company. We knew nothing about advertising. We really didn't understand the advertising model and didn't claim to. And I think a lot of that was what led us to the feature advertisements model, where we're now really dominating the model from a revenue per user standpoint in terms of how you monetize an application. But that really came out of our own inexperience. And so I think it's important to try to walk down the path of vetting out ideas and not discounting them too quickly. Be flexible when you're iterating. Now, what about a big setback in your life, a failure in your life as an entrepreneur, and how that's made you a better or prepared you for the challenges? Well, so when I started my first business, they called me the first prepubescent distributor. So I was 14, and I was doing business out of Asia and the Pacific Rim, and the biggest deal that I wanted was this home automation deal out of Singapore. And I had spent 9 months back and forth working on this deal, and finally I get to a point where we're done with the deal, they're doing final due diligence, and they send me this list of questions. There's 30 questions in a row, and I start answering them all, and the 30th question is, how old are you? And so I ended up going back, and I gave it some thought and some soul searching about, how do I answer this? Because, if I tell them I'm 17, I'm going to risk the deal. So what did you do? And so gave it a lot of thought, ended up replying back. I told them I'm 17 years old, but here are all the reasons that I'm capable of doing it. And we ended up winning the deal. And so it was my biggest setback because I almost torpedoed the biggest deal I ever had. And the way I overcame it was immense over-preparation. So I spent a huge amount of time refining the story, refining all the reasons, and gathered 30 letters of recommendation to make sure that I was going to win the deal. So, but you stayed honest. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, stay honest, stay hungry. Honest. Okay. Thanks very much, David. I've been speaking with David Koretz. He's the founder and CEO of Blue Tie. I'm Bambi Francisco.